Well, I imagine most of the folks here today are going to be quite interested in your perspective on access to capital. They're either going concern businesses or young businesses seeking precious capital. And we're all well aware of what's happening in the marketplace today. Why don't you tell us from the perspective of venture capital and private equity capital, how tough or where the bright spots are in the marketplace of accessing capital today?
Do you venture capital first, Mark? Maybe?
Yeah. Okay, so what we experience now is that, especially for startups, it's not easy to get money. So first, private equity or venture capitalists are interested in seeing revenue. You actually have to make profit, etc. So in that market, although you have a good business model, they first want to see how you're doing after 1 year. So that's the difficult part. But I also think that in this market, you could get more market share for less money. So that's also a benefit for the investment companies.
And I was going to say, I think the lower mid-market, where we are, is probably the most interesting space. I think for large LBOs, the leverage just isn't there. I think people do see that this is going to be an amazing opportunity to invest in businesses at much more attractive valuations than for several years. Clearly, a higher proportion of equity is going to be required, and people are, I would say, much more focused on some of the traditional metrics like profitability and cash flow. To me also, I think one of the most critical things is differentiation. I think Philip talked about it in relation to the conference, but there are so many Me Too businesses and weak businesses without a really strong investment case will fail in this market. So to me, differentiation is critical, but the capital is there for the right businesses.
Yeah, I agree with Jason. I mean, from our point of view, we've and across the low mid-market, deals are done often without a lot of leverage. Some are done with leverage, but lots are done without. And lots of the houses that have been bigger than us historically are talking about coming down to our area of the market, taking minority stakes, being more flexible. These are things that people in the low mid-market have always done. So we're actually very excited at the moment. And the private equity models, I think, are just still working in the low mid-market. The funders of those houses are still okay, and the allocations to those houses are not enormous. So those PE houses should survive and should do well. We're actually very excited.
Would you care to comment a little bit about what your portfolio companies are telling you about how consumers are buying late, and what does that mean?
Sure. Well, in terms, to take the second point first, the e-tail point, just slightly away from travel for a second, we have an investment in a business called Wiggle, which is a cycle accessory retailer. It's entirely online and also growing very strongly at the moment. So, touch wood, our experience is that our retail-focused businesses are still growing, and some of them really very strongly. In terms of booking late, we've seen it in our ski business. People who are skiers, this year's been one of the best ever actually for snow, and has helped a lot. But Enigma, our ski business, has still delivered growth in this year. Prices came under a lot of pressure because they came into the season with more left to sell than they have done in the last couple of years. People were just booking late. But then when it came to January and they decided, well, am I or am I not going to take my ski holiday, then they booked and they came through. And similarly with On the Beach, the online beach retailer, they've also seen, to be honest, not so bad, it's just slower growth than they have in previous years. November, December, January quiet. But again, I don't think Simon's here yet, but it's the bookings are coming through now. And I think people also understand that leaving it completely late is not the best thing to do. And if you're going to book your flights on EasyJet and Ryanair, then a few months out, you might optimise your price. So it's late, but it's not crazy late.
I think you've also got the big tour operators in Europe, now that it's a bit of a duopoly, taking lots of capacity out of the market. So I think people are, there's in a way less to sell, which is helping price hold up.
Mm-hmm. What are the disruptive technologies that may be happening in the marketplace that you see are investment opportunities in the next 3 to 5 years?
I don't know if you, from our We get there a bit later than you guys, I think, to be honest, Gene. We need to see this stuff proven by the time it gets to us. I've had a look at what's happening with mobile in our investees at the moment. We're starting to see the first signs of it. At Travel Jigsaw, the car hire business, they are set up to take bookings over mobile applications, but they're just not seeing that much of it yet. I think it is going to come. But it's interesting to work out exactly where it's going to come, because their view is that it's more of a challenge to make sure they're set up to take bookings from, legacy browsers rather than mobile. If they're 1,000 bookings a day, they're getting about 3 via a mobile application. So I think from where we are, we just see it a little bit later. I'm sure it is going to come, but we don't get that.
I was also going to say, I mean, in our hotel services business, about 70% of distribution still goes through the GDSs. Mm-hmm. We look at disruptive technologies and say, when they have proven themselves, when Mark's finished with them, that's the time to embrace them, adopt them, and add them to your client base rather than to pioneer them. But the established channels are still the ones that are dominant. They may not be the fastest growing ones, but they're still the dominant ones.
So what Philip just mentioned about the 70-20-10 rule, I believe that, hey, there's a former colleague of mine, is that you have to, 70% of your business should be the core business. 20% should be think about new products and actually try to make them successful. And 10% should be, how can I think about new products? What kind of trends do we see? As we see that video reviews are going to be one of the trends in travel. Consumers are interested in it, but there aren't that many video reviews of hotels now. So what if companies start thinking about innovation and actively spend time and push the company to innovations, go for mobile, etc. And I believe that even if travel is in online a pretty mature market, they should think about more opportunities. And I also believe that in this market, when we have some issues, you really start thinking about those initiatives. How to be smarter than others, how to think about new trends, what's going on, new partnerships, grow faster, be smarter than smart. And you see that more and more companies are interested in doing that. That's what I at least like about this time, that there are a lot of more opportunities for new partnerships and to grow and to do new things. So it's a fun time.
And it's part of if you're going to be differentiated, adopting early or saying to customers, we've got a great ski and beach product, you can see the user-generated content's a pretty good way to distinguish yourself. We all know the history of this industry is, people turn up having seen one picture in a brochure and are very disappointed because it was the one angle that makes the place look nice. So I think it will make a big difference and make people more keen to try and use destinations, etc.